What's going on, guys? Welcome back into the channel. Today we have episode 1 of our Pittsburgh Steelers connected franchise here on Madden 21, and this is actually going to be our series this year on franchise mode, or on Madden 21, and this is what we're going to be bringing to you guys unless we decide to bring a couple other things. But today, essentially what I want to do is I want to give you guys an introduction to this team, and I want to kind of recap a little bit of what's gone on with preseason so far. But this is going to be a realistic franchise. We're trying to play this franchise ultra realistic. Essentially what we're trying to do is, reflectively have realistic stats, have, realistic ratings. Obviously we're using the roster that I came up with and everything like that. And, we're trying to achieve the most realistic outcome as possible with this franchise, obviously with user input as well. So with that being said, I'll introduce you guys to who all is in the franchise. I guess we can just talk about the teams, and then we'll go through our team and look at some of the position battles and what's gone on so far in the franchise. So first things first, in the franchise we have the Vikings, the Panthers, the Cowboys, the Titans, the Eagles, Patriots, Steelers, Dolphins, Chargers, and the last team, I can't remember exactly who they'll be, but I'm going to update you guys in the next video whenever that person actually joins. Those are the teams that we're going to have in the franchise. So we have a nice balance between the AFC and the NFC, and my goal here is to actually stream to you guys every single one of my games this season. And we're hoping that some of the other users will be able to stream their games as well. So if you want to see different aspects of this franchise, you guys will be able to. But with that being said, let's go ahead and check out what's gone on so far through the season with our team. So up to this point, we are 1-2. The first week of preseason, we didn't actually play. That was a sim game, so we lost to the Buccaneers in our first week of preseason. We lost last week in a user game against the Saints. They are a very tough team to compete against, and they kind of beat us up, and we threw quite a few interceptions against them. And then this week we came out with a nice win in preseason against the New York Jets, and we have some interesting position battles starting to emerge. We'll go ahead and run through the roster, and we'll start to talk about maybe some of the stats after that. But looking at the roster here, we obviously have Big Ben returning after his injury, and he will be leading the offense. But what I want to say is that I'm going to commit to the plan to try to make Mason Rudolph the long-term answer after Ben Roethlisberger leaves. So no matter when that happens, Mason Rudolph is going to be the person to take over for him, good or bad. That's just something that I think is realistic that we're going to try to commit to, and we're going to try to develop Mason Rudolph a little bit better. With that being said, we also have Duck Hodges here sitting behind Mason Rudolph, and Duck Hodges is actually going to probably get dealt away. We already have a suitor for him. A team that is looking for their potential future quarterback and looking for some competition is going to be trying to take on Duck Hodges, so we have that going on. No surprise here with Derek Watt winning the fullback job. I don't really think we had any competition for the fullback job, but that one is pretty straightforward. At halfback, we have James Conner sitting at an 80 overall with Benny Snell at a 76, and then the third running back is Anthony McFarland, and we're keeping Jalen Samuels, on the roster here as well as a good complement. He can play multiple different positions. He's a good running back. He's a decent wide receiver. He can play fullback. He can play tight end, so he's a really versatile guy, so I definitely want to keep Jalen Samuels around if that's possible. With the wide receiving core, we have Juju, obviously. We have Chase Claypool, who's been doing really well for us, is earning that spot as a starter, and then Deontay Johnson playing the slot wide receiver spot. James Washington has been playing really well in preseason, so we have quite an interesting position battle going on here with James Washington trying to earn a starting spot. So it's a real kind of three-way battle between Claypool, Washington, and Deontay Johnson, and I'll show you guys that when we get to the stats. We also have Ryan Switzer down here at wide receiver, Dion Kane, I believe his name is, and I should really just look at the roster view of this so I can show you guys the full depth chart, because we have even more than that at wide receiver, and we're trying to determine who we're going to keep. Kane has been a strong performer for us so far, and then we also have Saeed Blacknell down below him. I believe that we have a potential suitor for Dion Kane as well, so there's potential there that he might get dealt away. I would love to keep him around if that's the situation that happens, but as of right now, it's looking like he will be on another team. And Saeed Blacknell is a decent option as well. With that being said, at tight end, we have Eric Ebron, Vance McDonald, and Zach Gentry, who we're keeping around. I plan to keep Zach Gentry around because he's athletic. I think we could develop him into a reasonably effective receiving weapon for us. Vance McDonald has been performing really well in the preseason, and I think that he's going to see an uptick in playing time, even though I like Ebron a lot. I'm going to try to get Vance McDonald involved because he is a very good receiver. He comes down with the ball when I throw it to him. Offensive line-wise, we're sticking with Alejandro Villanueva and Derwin Gray at left tackle. We have Steven Wisniewski at left guard and Kevin Dotson at left guard. We have Steven Wisniewski might not win this starting job because we have another lineman playing really well that we'll get to in a moment. Marquise Pouncey playing really well at center with J.C. Hassenauer backing him up. At right guard, David DeCastro, and then at right tackle, we have Matt Filer starting. He's in a contract year, so he's looking to prove something. We have him backed up by Chukwuma Okorafor, and Okorafor is the one that might win that left guard job. He's been playing really well when he comes in, so he might just kind of, rotate around on our offensive line and, plug and play in a couple of different positions whenever we need him to. And then Zach Banner backing him up at right tackle. Across the defensive line, we have Stephon Tuitt at left end. No surprises there with Carlos Davis, the rookie, backing him up. And then at right end, we actually have the rookie Alex Highsmith. Alex Highsmith is a player that the Steelers say is doing fantastic in training camp and actually looks to potentially project out to be a starter for this team this year. And they're saying that he looks really, really impressive. So Alex Highsmith is going to get the start for us at right end, backed up by Isaiah Buggs. And that means that Cam Hayward, with Javon Hargrave leaving in free agency, is going to bump to the inside and play more of a defensive tackle role. And boy, let me tell you that this helps him out because Cameron Hayward plays really well in that D tackle role, and he really gets a lot of pressure. He really gets into the backfield and disrupts things, and I think this is a positive move for this team. Backed up by Tyson Alualu, Chris Wormley, and Dan McCullers. At the linebacker positions, we have TJ Watt at left outside. No surprise there. Backed up by Tazar Skipper. Tazar Skipper is probably going to get bumped down to left end because he is more of a pass rush specialist. But he's kind of a little bit of a bigger guy. I mean, he's not big, but he's a little bit of a stronger guy and a slower guy, so he might be better suited to that left end spot. We'll see what happens with that. At right end, we have Bud Dupree, backed up by Ola Adeni, and we ended up deciding to bring in our one free agent pickup, which is Sutton Smith, the linebacker that they drafted 2 years ago. The Steelers did actually ended up cutting him or trading him away, and then I decided I wanted to bring him back because I think that he'll fill in this role nicely. We are going to be exploring options to send Bud Dupree away, and Bud Dupree, I think, realizes that he's in a contract year because he has 3 sacks in preseason already in the minimal amount of time that he has had to play. It's a potential idea that we could trade him away, but we also might just keep him around for the season, try to win a Super Bowl with him, and let him walk in free agency and earn his money. There's the possibility we could sign him, but I doubt we'll have the money for that. It depends on who all we decide to bring back and who all we decide to let walk. At middle linebacker, we have Devin Bush, who's already getting upgrades and playing fantastic, backed up by Vince Williams. Marcus Allen, who basically comes down from the secondary to play middle linebacker. They've kind of moved him to that position in real life with Ulysses Gilbert and Robert Spillane. Robert Spillane probably going to end up on the practice squad. Our defensive backs pan out with Steven Nelson and Joe Hayden on the outside, with Mike Hilton playing the slot, Justin Lane getting some reps in there as well, and Cameron Sutton bringing up the rear. Justin Lane has played really well in preseason, and we'll show you guys that. He's one of the only players in preseason to get an interception for us, so I'm considering giving him some time in the slot this year. At free safety, we have Minkah Fitzpatrick backed up by Curtis Riley. And then at strong safety, we have Terrell Edmonds backed up by Antoine Brooks Jr. And Antoine Brooks Jr. has looked decent in his time playing. He's a little slow, a little sluggish back there when he does rotate in. So we're going to be looking to try to improve upon his physical abilities as we go along. And then obviously at kicker, we have Chris Boswell and Jordan Berry. With that being said, I do kind of want to mention some of those position battles, like I said. So let's go to the stats and show you guys exactly what's going on with the position battles. Quarterback play has been atrocious for us so far. As you guys can see, I'm just kind of struggling with what we're playing on, and it's just going to take a little bit of time for me to realize what balls I can't throw that are going to get picked off. And one of the things that I've noticed this year with Madden is that wide receivers tend to get stuck on defenders a lot, so that is something that's going to take getting used to, because a lot of times you'll throw to a guy that's like on a crossing route or something, and he's about to break open, and then he just gets stuck on the defender, and then the ball is thrown for an easy interception. So that's something I'm definitely going to need to get used to. But what I will say is that in his limited playing time, Mason Rudolph has looked good. I mean, he's looked the part. Throwing for 3 touchdowns and 3 interceptions when I'm doing even worse with a higher overall Ben Roethlisberger, is good. I mean, his completion percentage hasn't been as good. Obviously, Ben's completion percentage has been better, but Rudolph looks like a decent quarterback, and I think that with some time and some effort and training put into him, I think we'll be able to turn Rudolph into the future quarterback of this team. Rushing-wise, James Conner and Benny Snell have struggled a little bit in terms of their yards per carry, but one of the bright spots has been Anthony McFarland. When he does get the ball, he performs really well, and I think that we are absolutely going to give Anthony McFarland a strong number of touches this year in this offense. From a receiving standpoint, like I said, it's kind of a close race between Washington, Claypool, and Deontay Johnson. I think Deontay Johnson maybe has earned his starting spot at this point. I think he's a really good slot player. But this is what I'm saying. Claypool has done really well for me, and he's made some really big clutch catches. You toss the ball up to Claypool, he's going to come down with it. But what I'll say is that James Washington's really making a push for that job. I mean, 125 yards, 2 touchdowns. Very solid performances from him. He's competing for a job there, absolutely. And then I said that Vance McDonald as well, with 104 yards, is really competing out here as well. I think we are going to keep Ryan Switzer around because he's been half decent when he comes onto the field, so I can't complain about that. But Deon Cain has also been really good. He only had this one reception, but it was for a touchdown, and it was a beautiful catch, a beautiful move that he made towards the end zone. So we got some interesting things going on with the receiver position. At the offensive line position, we haven't had many players give up sacks, which is a good item to note. And then defensively speaking, this is where I say, my slot cornerbacks in Mike Hilton and Justin Lane have been playing really well. And, I want to keep giving Mike Hilton reps because he is younger and he's a great slot corner, but I also want to give Justin Lane reps because with the limited playing time that he's had, he's done really well. I mean, he's had 12 tackles. He's one of the only players to get an interception for me. So he is definitely of note. Defensively speaking, Antoine Brooks Jr. has done pretty good. And then sack-wise, I want to note, like I said, Bud Dupree has 3 sacks. He's performing well in limited time. And then, Cam Hayward at that D tackle spot is getting a lot of tackles in the backfield. And finally, I wanted to mention that Sutton Smith has added a sack with his minimal playing time as well. So I really like the pickup of Sutton Smith. I think he's going to be rotating in for us this year, and we're going to try to breed him to take over for Bud Dupree on that outside spot. I don't know how well that's going to go because he is a low overall, but I wanted the Steelers to keep him from the beginning because I think he has a lot of potential. All he needed to do was add some size, and he would have had some potential. So I'm hoping to see what he can do and develop some of these players. What I will say is that I don't know who I'm going to cut at this point. Looking at the team, everybody has added some valuable contributions through preseason this far. Maybe you guys can give me some feedback on who you think I should cut, but we're at 59 out of 75 players, and I really don't know who's on the bubble, to be honest with you guys. There's nobody that sticks out to me that's like, oh man, I want to cut that player. Maybe sending away a couple players in trades like Hodges and Deon Cain would help me out, but I really think that Saeed Blacknell's probably one that's going to end up on the practice squad. Ryan Switzer might end up getting cut. I mean, he's been decent, but just not impressive. I would say. And then, offensive line-wise, I think we're going to keep everybody. Defensively, I think that we're going to put Spillane on the practice squad. And I don't know from there. We might end up putting a guy like Adani, or we might cut a guy like Tazar Skipper. We're going to have to see what happens with those things. Maybe you guys have some recommendations. You guys can leave those in the comment section below. We're doing some real interesting things with this franchise, like I mentioned. Whenever we sign free agents out of the free agency pool, you have to get it cleared with everybody, basically. You have to present a need for that player. You have to basically convince everybody why you need that player, why they're useful to you, and that you can actually support a contract for them, because what we're doing is, when a player gets signed out of free agency, we're giving them a legitimate contract. So the Titans player decided that he needed a D-end, so he went out and signed Jabal Sheard to play right end for him, and we edited in a contract for him. So Jabal Sheard got a pretty sizable market size contract for him, and it's an interesting way of actually approaching free agency, is to agree to give guys contracts ahead of time, edit them into the game, because there is no real free agent contract negotiation type of thing like there is in other games here when you're in the regular season or preseason. So that's one of the ways that we're trying to keep things realistic, and then on top of that, we have a lot of other things in the works in terms of limiting trades and limiting transactions and things like that, and trying to force people to build from within, build through the draft, and develop your own players. So hopefully you guys look forward to seeing more of this franchise. Like I said, I'm going to try to stream every game for you guys. If it's something that you guys are looking forward to, make sure you guys hit a like on the video here. Make sure you guys subscribe to the channel to see more, and make sure you guys comment down below and let me know that you guys want to see more of this if that's the case. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Hopefully you guys enjoy the future videos coming, and I'll see you guys in the next one. I hope you guys have a good night and enjoy your weekend. Enjoy your long weekend if you have it.